What if I told you that the difference between those who achieve extraordinary success and those who remain trapped in mediocrity lies not in their talents, their connections, or even their circumstances, but in what happens in the first 30 minutes of their day? There exists a morning ritual so powerful, so fundamentally transformative, that it can eliminate the very force that destroys more dreams than failure ever could: doubt. Every morning, millions of people wake up carrying an invisible burden that grows heavier with each passing day. This burden whispers lies about their capabilities, magnifies their fears, and convinces them that their dreams are too big, too unrealistic, too impossible. This burden is doubt and operates like a parasite in the mind, feeding on uncertainty and growing stronger with every moment of hesitation. Yet there are those who have discovered how to starve this parasite, to render it powerless before it can poison another day. The great philosopher of success, Napoleon Hill, spent over 20 years studying the minds of the most successful individuals of his era, and what he discovered about their morning practices will challenge everything you think you know about confidence, belief, and personal power. These weren't people born with some special gene for success or blessed with circumstances that guaranteed their triumph. They were ordinary individuals who learned to perform an extraordinary act each morning that transformed their entire relationship with doubt. Consider this unsettling truth. Every single day that you allow doubt to take residence in your mind, you're not just losing that day, you're programming your subconscious to accept limitation as your natural state. Your morning thoughts don't just influence your day, they architect your destiny. The successful individuals Hill studied understood this principle so deeply that they treated their morning mental preparation with the same reverence a surgeon treats the sterilization of their instruments. What you're about to discover isn't merely a technique or strategy. It's a fundamental shift in how you relate to your own mind. This morning practice has the power to transform doubt from your greatest enemy into your most reliable early warning system, alerting you to thoughts that no longer serve your highest aspirations. The question isn't whether this practice works. The question is whether you're ready to claim the mental sovereignty that has been waiting for you all along. Doubt enters the human mind not through dramatic failures or catastrophic events, but through the accumulation of small, seemingly insignificant moments of mental surrender. It begins in those twilight moments between sleep and full consciousness, when the mind is most vulnerable to suggestion and most receptive to the programming that will guide the entire day. Napoleon Hill discovered that the most successful individuals recognize this critical window and use it strategically, understanding that the first thoughts of the day become the foundation upon which all subsequent thoughts are built. The masterful mind treats the morning hours as sacred territory, recognizing that what happens in these precious moments determines whether the day will be governed by possibility or limitation. Doubt thrives in mental chaos, in the random, uncontrolled flow of thoughts that most people accept as normal. But success demands mental discipline, the deliberate cultivation of thoughts that align with your deepest aspirations rather than your superficial fears. Think of your mind as a garden that has been left unattended throughout the night. By morning, weeds of doubt, worry, and limitation have begun to sprout, competing with the flowers of possibility for nourishment and attention. The practiced gardener doesn't wait for the weeds to establish themselves. They begin each day by deliberately planting the seeds they want to see flourish. This is why the morning ritual Hill observed among successful individuals was never passive or accidental. It was a deliberate act of mental cultivation, a conscious choice to feed the mind with thoughts of strength, capability, and unwavering faith in their ability to achieve their goals. They understood that doubt is not overcome through wishful thinking or positive affirmations alone, but through the systematic replacement of limiting thoughts with empowering ones. The human mind operates according to the principle of mental equivalence. Whatever you consistently hold in your consciousness eventually manifests in your external experience. Doubt creates experiences that validate doubt, while faith creates experiences that validate faith. The morning practice Hill documented was fundamentally about choosing which mental equivalent would govern the day. Every successful person Hill studied had learned to recognize doubt not as truth, but as a signal that their mind needed redirection. They treated doubtful thoughts the same way a navigator treats warning signals, as valuable information that requires immediate course correction rather than acceptance. This shift in perspective transforms doubt from a paralyzing force into a useful tool for mental clarity. The foundation of this morning practice rests on a simple but profound understanding. You cannot control what thought arise in your mind, but you have absolute control over which thoughts you choose to nurture and which you choose to dismiss. This distinction separates those who live as victims of their mental chatter from those who live as masters of their mental domain. The human brain possesses a remarkable quality that Napoleon Hill and successful individuals he studied intuitively understood decades before modern neuroscience could explain it. Neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to reorganize and form new neural pathways throughout life. What this means in practical terms is that the thoughts you think most frequently literally reshape the structure of your brain, making certain types of thinking more automatic and natural over time. During the early morning hours, when the mind transitions from the theta brainwave state of sleep to the alpha state of relaxed awareness, there exists a window of heightened suggestibility. In this state, the critical faculty of the conscious mind is less active, allowing new ideas and beliefs to penetrate more deeply into the subconscious mind. The successful individuals Hill studied instinctively recognized this opportunity and used it to their advantage. This is why random morning thoughts are so dangerous to your success trajectory. If you allow your mind to wander into worry, doubt, or limitation during these crucial moments, you're essentially programming your subconscious to expect and attract more of the same throughout the day. Your brain interprets these morning thoughts as instructions for how to perceive and respond to the world around you. The morning practice Hill observed among achievers involved a deliberate engagement with this neuroplastic window. Rather than leaving their mental programming to chance, they took conscious control of the process, feeding their minds with specific thoughts designed to strengthen their belief in their goals and their capability to achieve them. They understood that repetition during this receptive state would eventually make success-oriented thinking as automatic as breathing. Consider how muscle memory works in physical activities. Through consistent repetition, complex movements become effortless and natural. The same principle applies to mental patterns. By consistently engaging in empowering morning thoughts, you create what could be called success memory, automatic mental responses that support your goals rather than sabotage them. The transformative power of this practice lies not in the content of any single morning session, but in the cumulative effect of consistent repetition over time. Each morning that you choose empowering thoughts over limiting ones, you strengthen the neural pathways associated with confidence, clarity, and purposeful action. Each morning that you allow doubt to dominate, you reinforce the pathways associated with hesitation, confusion, and inaction. Napoleon Hill observed that successful people didn't just think positive thoughts. They engage in what he called controlled attention, the ability to focus the mind deliberately and persistently on desired outcomes, while refusing to give sustained attention to feared outcomes. This controlled attention during morning hours created a mental momentum that carried forward throughout the entire day. The morning practice that Napoleon Hill discovered among successful individuals contained components that many find initially uncomfortable but ultimately transformative. Honest self-reflection conducted without judgment or criticism. This wasn't the harsh self-examination that breeds more doubt, but rather a compassionate assessment of where they stood in relation to their goals and what mental adjustments needed to be made. This reflection process served as a mirror, showing them not who they were in that moment, but who they were becoming through their consistent thoughts and actions. They learned to see doubt not as evidence of inadequacy, but as indication that their current mental habits needed upgrading. This shift in perspective transformed self-reflection from a source of self-criticism into a tool for self-empowerment. The powerful truth Hill uncovered was that most people avoid honest self-reflection because they fear what they might discover about themselves. But the successful individuals he studied had learned that what you refuse to examine in your life continues to control you, while what you bring into conscious awareness becomes subject to conscious change. They use morning reflection as a way to shine light into the corners of their consciousness where doubt liked to hide. This reflective practice involved asking themselves specific questions designed to reveal the gap between their current mental state and the mental state required to achieve their goals. Questions like, what thoughts am I entertaining that don't serve my highest good? And what beliefs about myself need to be upgraded to match my aspirations? These weren't rhetorical questions, but genuine inquiries that demanded honest answers. The mirror of morning reflection also revealed patterns of thinking that had become so habitual they had become invisible. Many people carry limiting beliefs they inherited from family, society, or past experiences without ever questioning whether these beliefs serve their current goals. The morning practice created space to examine these inherited limitations and consciously choose which ones to keep and which ones to release. What made this reflection practice particularly powerful was its focus on possibility rather than problems. Instead of dwelling on what was wrong or lacking, successful individuals use their morning reflection to identify opportunities for growth and improvement. They train themselves to see challenges as puzzles to be solved rather than evidence of their limitations. The ultimate purpose of this reflective component was to develop what he called accurate thinking, the ability to distinguish between facts and opinions, between temporary circumstances and permanent conditions, between what is and what could be. This mental clarity became the foundation upon which all their other success practices were built. At the heart of the morning practice Napoleon Hill observed among successful individuals was their daily reconnection with what he termed their definite major purpose, a specific, clearly defined goal toward which all their energies and efforts were directed. This wasn't merely goal setting in the conventional sense, but rather a profound alignment between their conscious desires and their subconscious programming. Doubt flourishes in the absence of clear direction. When your mind lacks a specific target to focus upon, it naturally gravitates toward worry, uncertainty, and limitation. But when you begin each day by vividly reconnecting with your definite purpose, you give your mind a clear directive that crowds out doubtful thoughts simply by occupying a mental space they would normally fill. The successful individuals Hill studied didn't just think about their goals during their morning practice. They experienced them with all their senses. They visualized not just the achievement of their purpose, but the journey toward it, the obstacles they would overcome, and the person they would become in the process. This multi-sensory engagement created what psychologists now call future memory, the brain's experience of something that hasn't yet happened in physical reality. This morning connection with definite purpose served multiple functions beyond simple goal reinforcement. It created a filter through which all daily decisions could be evaluated. Does this thought, action, or opportunity move me closer to or further from my definite purpose? This filter eliminated the mental confusion that often leads to doubt and indecision. The practice also involved what he'll call burning bridges. The mental commitment pursued their definite purpose with such intensity that retreat became impossible. During their morning sessions, they didn't just affirm their desire to achieve their goals. They renewed their commitment to persist despite obstacles, setbacks, and temporary failures. This commitment created an internal resolve that doubt. Napoleon Hill discovered that those who achieved extraordinary success had learned to make their definite purpose more real and compelling than their current circumstances. They spent time each morning making their future vision so vivid and emotionally engaging that it pulled them forward with irresistible force, making present difficulties seem temporary and manageable by comparison. The transformative power of this practice lay in its ability to shift the mind from reactive to creative mode. Instead of spending their mental energy responding to circumstances beyond their control, they invested it in creating the circumstances they desired. This shift from reaction to creation became the foundation of their unshakable confidence. Napoleon Hill identified autosuggestion as one of the most powerful tools available to human mind, the ability to influence your subconscious through deliberate, repetitive self-talk. The successful individuals he studied had mastered this practice, using their morning hours as a laboratory for programming their minds with thoughts that supported rather than sabotaged their success. Autosuggestion works on the principle that your subconscious mind accepts as true whatever you tell it with sufficient emotion and repetition. Most people unconsciously use this principle against themselves, repeatedly telling themselves they're not capable, not worthy, or not destined for success. But the achievers Hill studied had learned to reverse this process, using autosuggestion to install beliefs that empowered them. The morning autosuggestion practice involved more than simply repeating positive affirmations. It required what are called emotionalized thought, statements delivered with genuine feeling and conviction. They understood that the subconscious mind responds not just to words, but to the emotional intensity behind those words. Mechanical repetition without emotion produces mechanical results, but emotionalized autosuggestion creates profound internal transformation. These successful individuals crafted specific autosuggestion statements related to their definite purpose, their capability to achieve it, and their unwavering faith in the process. They didn't use generic affirmations, but created personalized statements that addressed their specific goals and challenges. For example, instead of saying, "I am successful," they might say, "I am developing the specific skills and mindset necessary to achieve my goal of building a business that serves others while providing financial freedom for my family." The practice also involved what are termed constructive autosuggestion, deliberately replacing limiting thoughts with empowering ones the moment they arose. Rather than fighting against doubtful thoughts, they had prepared specific replacement thoughts that redirected their mental energy toward their goals. This created a mental reflex that automatically countered doubt with faith. The timing of this autosuggestion practice was crucial. The early morning hours, when the conscious mind was still relatively quiet, provided optimal conditions for these suggestions to penetrate the subconscious. They understood that thoughts impressed upon the subconscious during this receptive state would influence their perception and behavior throughout the entire day. What distinguished their approach from casual positive thinking was their systematic consistency. They engaged in this practice every single morning without exception, understanding that sporadic efforts produce sporadic results, while consistent efforts produce consistent transformation. They treated their morning autosuggestion with the same reliability they brought to other essential daily activities. Napoleon Hill discovered that the most successful individuals possess what he called applied faith, not merely belief in positive outcomes, but absolute certainty in their ability to achieve their definite purpose regardless of temporary setbacks or apparent obstacles. This faith wasn't born from wishful thinking, but cultivated through specific morning practices that strengthened their mental and emotional conviction. Faith, as Hill observed among achievers, was an active rather than passive quality. It involved the deliberate cultivation of mental states that supported unwavering belief in their goals. During their morning practice, they didn't just hope for success. They mentally rehearsed it, emotionally experienced it, and intellectually prepared for it. This comprehensive engagement created a foundation of certainty that doubt could not shake. The faith-building practice involved what Hill called controlled imagination, the systematic use of mental imagery to create detailed, compelling visions of their desired outcomes. They didn't just visualize the end result, but imagined the entire journey, including the challenges they would face and how they would overcome them. This mental preparation created a sense of familiarity with success that made its achievement feel inevitable rather than impossible. These successful individuals understood that faith and doubt cannot coexist in the same mental space. By filling their consciousness with detailed, emotionally charged images of their success, they literally crowded out the mental territory where doubt could take root. Their morning practice created what are called a positive mental attitude, not surface-level optimism, but deep-seated conviction based on thorough mental preparation. The cultivation of faith also involves studying and internalizing examples of others who had achieved similar goals despite facing similar or greater obstacles. They used their morning time to remind themselves of these success stories, not as entertainment, but as evidence that their own goals were achievable. This practice created what psychologists now call efficacy expectations, the belief that specific actions will lead to desired outcomes. Hill observed that these individuals had learned to interpret setbacks and temporary failures through the lens of faith rather than doubt. During their morning practice, they mentally reframed their challenges as stepping stones rather than roadblocks, as opportunities for growth rather than evidence of limitation. This reframing ability became automatic through consistent morning reinforcement. The ultimate purpose of this faith cultivation was to create what Hill termed poverty immunity, a mental state so thoroughly programmed for success that thoughts of failure, limitation, or defeat could not find fertile ground in their consciousness. They had trained their minds to automatically reject any thought that didn't align with their definite purpose and their faith in achieving it. The final component of the morning practice Napoleon Hill observed among successful individuals was the integration of all mental faculties into a unified force directed toward their definite purpose. This wasn't simply a matter of thinking positive thoughts, but rather the orchestration of imagination, emotion, logic, and will into a harmonious whole that generated unstoppable momentum toward their goals. This integration process began with what Hill called the mastermind principle, the harmonious cooperation of all aspects of their personality in service of their definite purpose. During their morning practice, they consciously aligned their thoughts, emotions, and intentions, ensuring that no internal conflict undermined their efforts. They recognized that a house divided against itself cannot stand, and a mind divided against itself cannot achieve extraordinary results. The practice involved a systematic review of their mental resources and how each could be deployed in service of their goals. They assessed their knowledge, skills, relationships, and opportunities not as separate elements, but as components of an integrated success system. This holistic approach created synergies that multiplied their effectiveness far beyond what any single element could produce alone. These successful individuals had learned to use their morning time to resolve internal conflicts that might otherwise sabotage their progress. If they noticed resistance to taking necessary action, they explored the source of that resistance and developed strategies to overcome it. If they detected fear masquerading as reasonable caution, they distinguished between legitimate concerns and limiting beliefs disguised as wisdom. The integration practice also involved connecting their definite purpose to their deepest values and motivations. They understood that goals pursued solely for external validation or superficial desires lacked the emotional power necessary to overcome significant obstacles. By anchoring their purpose in their core values during their morning practice, they created an unshakable foundation that could weather any storm. Hill observed that this integration created what he called definiteness of purpose backed by burning desire, a combination so powerful that it seemed to bend circumstances to align with their goals. They had learned to generate and sustain the emotional intensity necessary to impress their desires deeply into their subconscious mind, where they would continue working 24 hours a day to create opportunities and attract resources. The morning integration practice culminated in what Hill termed transmutation, the conversion of all their mental and emotional energy into focused action toward their definite purpose. They didn't just plan their day. They programmed themselves for success by ensuring that every thought, emotion, and intention was aligned with their ultimate objectives. This created a state of internal harmony that eliminated the mental friction that creates doubt and hesitation. As we reach the end of this exploration into the morning practices that Napoleon Hill discovered among the most successful individuals of his era, a profound truth emerges: the difference between those who achieve their dreams and those who merely dream lies not in their circumstances, their talents, or their luck, but in how they choose to begin each day. The morning ritual we've examined isn't just a collection of mental exercises. It's a fundamental rewiring of the human consciousness to operate from a place of power rather than powerlessness. The elimination of doubt through morning practice represents more than personal development. It represents a reclaiming of your birthright as a human being capable of extraordinary achievement. Every person who has ever accomplished something significant has had to master the art of mental self-governance, learning to direct their thoughts toward empowerment rather than limitation. The morning hours provide the optimal opportunity for this mastery because they offer a clean slate upon which you can write the mental program that will govern your entire day. What makes this practice so transformative is its cumulative effect over time. Each morning that you choose to feed your mind with thoughts of capability, purpose, and unwavering faith, you strengthen the neural pathways that support success-oriented thinking. Each morning that you reconnect with your definite purpose and emotionalize your commitment to achieving it, you deepen the groove of certainty that doubt cannot penetrate. This isn't about overnight transformation, but about the gradual, inevitable reshaping of your mental landscape. The successful individuals Napoleon Hill studied understood something that most people miss. Your morning thoughts don't just influence your day, they architect your destiny. The thoughts you think in those crucial first moments of consciousness become the seeds from which your entire life experience grows. When you take conscious control of this planning process, you take conscious control of your results. Perhaps the most liberating realization from this exploration is that you already possess everything necessary to implement this practice. You don't need special circumstances, additional resources, or perfect conditions. You need only the decision to treat your mind with the respect and attention it deserves, recognizing that the quality of your thoughts determines the quality of your life. The question that remains is not whether this morning practice works. Napoleon Hill's 20 years of research among the most successful individuals of his time provides ample evidence of its effectiveness. The question is whether you will choose to claim the mental sovereignty that has been waiting for you all along. Will you continue to allow random thoughts and circumstances to dictate your mental state, or will you step into the role of architect of your own consciousness? If this exploration has resonated with something deep within you, if you felt the stirring of possibility as you consider what your life might become with this level of mental discipline and clarity, then that stirring is your inner wisdom recognizing truth. Share this message with someone who needs to hear it. Someone who's been battling doubt and limitation. Like this video if it's opened your eyes to new possibilities, and subscribe to join a community of individuals committed to mental mastery and extraordinary achievement. Your transformation begins tomorrow morning. What thoughts will you choose to plant in the garden of your consciousness?